Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the Toll Mortgage Arena in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And this was their go-home show for Full Gear, which is this Saturday, which Full Gear is shaped up to be a good show just by how the card is. It's going to be in Newark from Prudential Center in Jersey. But I'm not going to be reviewing Full Gear this Saturday, as I'll be working late. But don't expect a Full Gear review. But as for Dynamite tonight, for their go-home show for Full Gear, it was an okay show. It was better than the previous weeks of Dynamite, in my opinion. But as a go-home show, it did not get us hyped going into the show on Saturday. But tonight, we have Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli versus the Ocho, Chris Jericho, the Ring of Honor World Champion, and Sammy Guevara. We have Swerve Strickland versus Anthony Bowens. The AEW World Trios Championship was on the line, where the Death Triangle defended the title against the return of Top Flight and AR Fox. We had the semifinals match in the AEW World Championship Eliminator Tournament. Paige took on Bandito. The interim AEW Women's World Championship was on the line, where Toni Storm defended the title against Anna Jay on a cringe. I'm like, what did Anna Jay do to earn an opportunity to get a shot at the interim AEW Women's World Championship? So, that was Dynamite tonight, and then we had, JON MOXLEY and MJF's promo at the end of the show. But overall, Dynamite tonight was an okay show. It was better than the previous weeks of Dynamite. But like I said, as a go-home show, it did not get us hyped going into the show on Saturday. But anyways, let's jump right into the review. Dynamite tonight opened up with the tag team match. Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli versus the Ocho, Chris Jericho, and Sammy Guevara. And this was a good match here. Really enjoyed this match. We had Jericho and Sammy Guevara. They end up making their way out. The crowd singing along to Judas, as always. So then Claudio Castagnoli end up coming out. And then Bryan Danielson. Both guys end up getting good ovations from the crowd there in Bridgeport, Connecticut. So William Regal end up joining Bryan Danielson. And William Regal end up shaking both Bryan and Claudio's hands as both Bryan and Claudio made their way to the ring. So the match got underway with Bryan and Sammy Guevara. They started fighting in the ring. Claudio and Jericho fought on the outside. So we had Jericho end up sending Claudio into the barricade. So Jericho ended up interrupting Bryan because Bryan was going at it with Sammy Guevara. But Bryan caught Jericho. Both men were just throwing some elbows at each other. Sammy Guevara and Bryan, of course, were the legal men. Bryan ended up going to work on Sammy Guevara's leg, and Bryan transitioned that into a Romero special. Claudio ended up taking in and delivered a boot to Guevara. Guevara was able to fight Claudio off. He ended up delivering a drop kick to Claudio. Guevara ended up going for a suplex. Claudio reversed the suplex attempt, and he turned it into a stolen suplex to Guevara. So Claudio ended up bringing Guevara down, ended up giving Jericho a suplex as well. So Claudio ended up slamming both Guevara and Jericho down. So Claudio tagged in Bryan. Bryan came in. He delivered a chop to Guevara. Bryan followed up with some roundhouse kicks to Guevara. Guevara came back. He ended up going after the injured eye of Bryan. And then Guevara tagged in Jericho. Jericho delivered some chops to Bryan. And then all we saw was Jericho flipping off the crowd. So Bryan ended up catching Jericho's arm, started stomping his elbow into the mat on Jericho. So Claudio tagged in. Claudio delivered some uppercuts to Jericho. And Claudio ended up stretching Jericho out. Jericho fought back at Claudio. Bryan ended up making the blind tag. So Bryan came in, and both Claudio and Bryan were exchanging chops to Jericho. Jericho then tagged in Guevara. Jericho and Guevara ended up delivering a double shoulder tackle to Bryan. Guevara then ended up delivering a boot to Bryan in the corner. So Bryan ended up coming back, started delivering some strikes to Guevara. Bryan then delivered a huge run and drop kick to Guevara, and he ended up delivering a drop kick to Guevara multiple times. And Guevara was sent into the turnbuckle. Jericho then ended up attacking Bryan's eye with the bat, and Aubrey Edwards was distracted, so she didn't see Jericho attack Bryan with the bat. So then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Jericho and Guevara, they ended up double teaming on Bryan. They ended up delivering a stolen suplex to Bryan. Jericho then ended up taunting Bryan. He ended up hitting a couple of chops. Bryan ended up reversing with one of his chops of his own to Jericho. So Bryan then moonsaulted out of the corner, ended up hitting the flying elbow to Jericho. So we had Claudio and Guevara end up going at it. So Claudio ended up taking out Jericho, and he yanked Sammy Guevara into the ring. So we had Claudio end up hitting a lariat, and he ended up going for the cover, to which Guevara ended up kicking out. Claudio ended up sending Guevara into Jericho, and he was about hitting a lot of uppercuts to Guevara and Jericho, which was crazy. So then Claudio ended up hitting a lariat on Jericho. He ended up going for the cover. Jericho kicked out, and Claudio was sent up for the neutralizer. Jericho ended up avoiding that. Claudio delivered a springboard off the ropes onto Jericho. He ended up going for the cover. Jericho ended up kicking out. So Jericho was looking to go for the walls, and Claudio ended up kicking him off. He ended up sending Jericho up for the swing. And then Guevara ended up attacking Claudio. So Claudio couldn't get the swing on Jericho. So Claudio then catapulted Jericho to the ropes. Jericho came off the ropes, and he followed up with the walls of Jericho. Guevara then took out Bryan and pulled the rope away from Claudio, so Claudio wouldn't get to the ropes while he was still locked in the walls. Bryan then took out Guevara on the outside, and he had to pin a shotgun drop kick. Bryan ended up going up to the top, and he delivered that shotgun drop kick to Jericho, which broke the walls on Claudio. So Bryan went to the apron, and he fired up Claudio, and he ended up tagging in. So Guevara and Bryan ended up facing off. They started throwing some forearms. We had Bryan deliver a rolling elbow to Guevara. Then he went for the S kicks. Guevara then ended up coming back and ended up hitting the GTH, but Bryan ended up rolling out into the bell lock. So Guevara then crawled everywhere to get to the ropes, but he was able to grab onto the ropes to break up the LeBell Lock, of course locked in by Bryan. So Bryan ended up sending Sammy up top, and Guevara was just throwing some punches at Bryan. Guevara biting Bryan's eye again. He ended up hitting a avalanche springboard cutter onto Bryan, and Jericho delivered the lion salt onto Bryan, and he ended up going for the cover. Claudio broke up the pin. Claudio then ended up launching Guevara and just delivered a crazy, brutal uppercut to Guevara. Jericho sent Claudio out. Bryan and Jericho were in the middle of the ring. Bryan ended up taking out Guevara before Guevara could make the tag. And Claudio ended up doing a double leg into the swing on Jericho. Jericho had a hold of his bat, and Claudio ended up doing the swing on Jericho while Jericho still had the bat in the hand. So Claudio took the bat from Jericho, and he locked in the sharpshooter on Jericho, holding the bat. So while Jericho was locked in the sharpshooter by Claudio, Jericho then tapped out. So there you go. Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a very good opening tag team match to start Dynamite. All these guys gave it all they got here. And we're going to be seeing them compete in the four-way match at Full Gear Saturday, where the Ring of Honor World Championship will be on the line. So Jericho will be facing Bryan, Claudio, and Sammy Guevara. But Jericho is going to be walking out still the Ring of Honor World Champion come Saturday. But without a doubt, I see this being a very good four-way match. You got Jericho and Bryan and Claudio and Guevara all going at it. So what we saw in this tag team match tonight was a little preview of what we're going to see on Saturday. But the difference is the Ring of Honor World Championship is going to be on the line at Full Gear. But like I said, Jericho is going to be walking out still the Ring of Honor World Champion. And then we saw the hype package for Jon Moxley and MJF. We saw interviews, of course, with Jim Ross, JR, Excalibur, and pretty much that was that. And as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we saw a body bag that was being loaded into a car. And this was in the desert. We saw Darby Allin emerge from that body bag. And Sting was driving the car. So Sting ended up saying, "Full Gear, it's showtime." And then we saw Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh backstage. Sanjay Dutt ended up saying to Sting and Darby Allin to show up to Full Gear. And then we saw JEFF, JARRETT, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett ended up saying to Sting 24 years ago, they stepped in the ring, and Sting used his trademark. "Folks, it's showtime." And Jeff Jarrett ended up saying, "Saturday at Full Gear is going to be your last time," which he was saying that to Sting. And pretty much that was basically that. But really do like the video, with Darby Allin and Sting, very well shot. Love the little black and white, motif, of how it was shot. And then we got Swerve Strickland versus Anthony Bowens, which this was a decent match. The Acclaimed end up coming out along with Billy Gunn. So Max Caster, of course, did his usual rap. So Bowens hyped up the Bridgeport crowd, and the Acclaimed end up introducing their new music video. In the new music video, it showed Captain Insano, who is Paul White, the Big Show. So this was, I guess, a character that the Big Show portrayed in Adam Sandler's film The Waterboy. So I haven't seen Waterboy. Yeah, you'll all probably be shocked that I've never seen it. But Bowens was interviewing Captain Insano, and it cut to a parody of Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee of Swerve in Our Glory. So they mocked Keith Lee's promo, asking about their chances, and they ended up laughing at him. And then it cut to the actual video, and it's basically just the Acclaimed in this music video mocking Swerve in Our Glory, Swerve and Keith Lee, and how Swerve is being sneaky, how Keith Lee looks like Cleveland Jr., and they also diss Swerve's rap career. But this whole music video was funny, and it was just very well done. But if it's not going to be for everybody, if you haven't seen the video, if you want to rewatch it, it's funny, like I said, but it's not going to be for everybody. So, but I liked it. It gave me a good laugh. So then Swerve ended up making his way out. And Keith Lee did not come out with Swerve. So Billy Gunn ended up immediately taking Swerve out. So the referees end up running down to stop Billy Gunn. They end up sending Caster and Billy Gunn to the back. So the refs end up ejecting the both of them. So it was just one-on-one with Swerve and Bowens. So Swerve turned around into a right hand by Bowens. And then Bowens ended up sending Swerve into the ring steps. Bowens then stomped on Swerve's hand, rolled him into the ring. And Bowens ended up delivering a thrust kick on Swerve and a bulldog, to which Bowens ended up going for the cover. Swerve kicked out at 1. Swerve fought back. Swerve ended up hitting a pretty nice hurricanrana, to which after the hurricanrana, he followed up with a drop kick, which sent Bowens out of the ring. Swerve then ended up taking out Bowens and then delivered a pump kick. Swerve then sent Bowens on first into the barricade. And as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Swerve was still in control of the match. Swerve was focusing on Bowens' arm, and we saw Bowens was bleeding from the mouth. Bowens ended up sending Swerve into the corner, but Swerve once again ended up attacking Bowens' arm. So Swerve went up to the top. Bowens ended up sweeping Swerve off the top, ended up hitting a kick and a running elbow. Bowens then delivered some right hands and a shoulder tackle to Swerve, to which Bowens followed up with some elbows and some forearms. Bowens then delivered a slam on Swerve. Bowens ended up going for the cover, and Swerve ended up kicking out. So we had Swerve end up doing a roll through brainbuster on Bowens. He ended up hitting a kick to Bowens, and Swerve ended up going for the cover. Swerve kicked out 2. Swerve ended up delivering a arm breaker to Bowens, which was crazy. So Swerve then followed that up with a Swerve stomp onto Bowens, and Swerve ended up going for the cover. Bowens ended up kicking out. Bowens ended up avoiding a Swerve kick, and he ended up trying to do a roll-up, but Swerve ended up delivering the JML driver on Bowens. Swerve went for the cover. And there you go. Swerve ended up winning the match. Overall, decent match it was from Swerve and Bowens. And then we had Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill was cutting a promo. Jade Cargill is facing Nyla Rose for the TBS Championship Saturday. Jade ended up saying that she's given everything, and how rude it is that Nyla Rose just comes and steals the TBS Championship. And then Nyla Rose ended up saying that she's her wake-up call, that she's Jade's wake-up call, and why storms are named after people. So pretty much that was basically that. But this is one match that I don't care for. I don't even care for this match with Jade Cargill and Nyla Rose. Man, if you care for this match, then I don't know what to tell you all. Get your NyQuils ready, because this match is going to be a NyQuil-inducing match. Jade Cargill is probably going to retain the TBS Championship. I mean, do you all care about this match? I know I don't. And then we saw Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was in the ring, and he introduced the Ring of Honor television champion, Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe, if you remember last week, he ended up attacking Wardlow. So Joe turned heel last week on Dynamite. Samoa Joe ended up making his way down to the ring, and we saw the attack that he did on Wardlow last week on Dynamite. Tony Schiavone then asked Samoa Joe what went down. So Samoa Joe ended up telling Tony Schiavone that it's a pleasure to share a ring with you. You stayed as a shocker, and that it was unexpected. Joe then ended up laughing, and he told Tony Schiavone, let me ask you, is it shocking for a man to refuse to be a victim or state a fact and take action? Joe went on to say that Wardlow ran his mouth, and for that mistake, he paid the ultimate price. So Joe was like, is that a shocker? He ended up saying that he refused to be a victim like these people tonight. So Joe ended up saying that if you or anyone else has a problem, they can take it up with me. And then Powerhouse Hobbs music ended up playing. Hobbs ended up saying congratulations to Samoa Joe. But then Hobbs ended up telling Joe that Joe is late, and that he's the one who's going to be kicking Wardlow's ass. So Hobbs was like, why don't I come down and kick yours? Joe then ended up taunting Hobbs, and then Wardlow's music ended up hitting. So Wardlow's music ended up hitting. Wardlow did not come out, but Wardlow came from behind and took out Samoa Joe. Hobbs ended up taking Wardlow out, and then of course you had the locker room come out to separate these guys. So Hobbs and Joe left the ring. Wardlow ended up taking out security, and pretty much they sent all the AEW Dark guys out there. Some of them you saw. You saw the Dark Order out there. The Dark Order ended up allowing Wardlow to attack the guys. So Wardlow ended up flying over the ropes, and he took out Hobbs and Joe and the security on the outside. Complete carnage that we saw at ringside. And pretty much that was basically how the segment ended. But this felt very WWE-ish. This is something that WWE would do, when these guys end up brawling. You have, the locker room end up coming out, try to separate them. This was very WWE-ish. But Samoa Joe, he's good on the mic. Every time he's on the mic, you gotta listen to what the guy says. He is just absolutely amazing. And then we saw Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and she was backstage. And of course, she's going to be taking on Saraya Saturday at Full Gear, which is going to be Saray's first match in a long while. So, Britt Baker ended up cutting a promo. She ended up saying, 4 times, you told people, I am not a star. And I've only been here 3 years. Baker ended up saying that she turned into the face of this company. And she learned as a leader, you take the blame when everyone else receives the credit. Baker went on to say that she took her opportunity and ran with it. Until she ended up saying, everyone says it with me, DMD. She wanted to say that she didn't wrestle at Madison Square Garden. But she did wrestle in Daly's Place in Jacksonville for over a year. When people couldn't come to us, we were there for them. She ended up saying that we kept the fire burning, and that's something you'll never know. Baker wanted to say that she respects that she fought addiction and your injury. She was saying this to Saraya. And that she paid the ground for me. But Britt Baker ended up saying that this business owes you nothing. It moved on. And what you won't do is belittle me and my blood, sweat, and tears. Baker went on to say that I am the heart, soul, and pulse of AEW. She ended up saying that if you think you're above that, get the hell out. So this is what Britt Baker was saying to Saraya. But this was a good promo from Britt Baker here. And then we had the AEW World Trios Championship on the line. Death Triangle defend the title against Top Flight and AR Fox. This is the return of Top Flight, Darius and Dante Martin. It was awesome and good to see Darius back after, he's been through a lot. It's good to see him back on TV. And we had them come out first, Top Flight and AR Fox, and then the Death Triangle. The match started off with Rey Fenix and Darius Martin. They were going back and forth with each other, very fast-paced. And, this was a decent match here. So they went fast-paced, and they ended up shaking hands. Penta ended up coming in. Him and Dante Martin ended up going at it. Dante Martin ended up sending out Penta with a drop kick. AR Fox ended up tagging in, and so did Pac. So it was AR Fox and Pac going at it. So we had, them doing lots of leapfrogs and moonsaults and flips. AR Fox in the pin, a kick to Pac. He followed up in the corner. He ended up pinning a cutter onto Pac, which was awesome. AR Fox ended up flying off the turnbuckle with a moonsault, which looked great. He flew off the turnbuckle with a moonsault to both Penta and Rey Fenix. So we had Top Flight and AR Fox. They end up triple teaming onto Pac. And we had Darius and Pac going at it later on. Darius ended up delivering a running boot to Pac and then a brainbuster. And Darius ended up going for the cover. Pac ended up kicking out. Phoenix ended up blind tagging in. Dante ended up jumping over Darius to take out Phoenix. Darius then ended up taking out Pac. Penta got taken out by a suicide dive by Darius. And Dante took out both Rey Fenix and Pac. AR Fox ended up taking all of them out. It was just very fast-paced back and forth with these guys. So Phoenix was in the ring, AR Fox ended up pinning the 450 splash on Rey Fenix. So we had AR Fox end up going for the cover, and Phoenix ended up kicking out. So Pac and Penta took out Darius and Dante, Top Flight, of course. Phoenix then delivered a kick, and he followed up with a Fear Factor. Phoenix ended up taking out both Darius and Dante, and Pac ended up hitting the Black Arrow. There you go. The Death Triangle ended up winning the match and retaining the Trios Championship. Post-match, Pac on the mic. Pac ended up asking the crowd if the Death Triangle is stupid or unaware. So they ended up mentioning the videos and rumors of the Elite. He ended up saying that if certain people think that they can make their return at Full Gear and embarrass the Death Triangle, well, that's ridiculous. So Pac was like, you know who you are. So Pac ended up saying, gentlemen, we are. And the Lucha Brothers end up saying their names in Spanish. You know, you have Pentagon with the Cielo Miedo. And then it cut to a video of Gears. And we saw a match graphic, and it was the Death Triangle on the left-hand side. And Death Triangle is going to be taken on the Elite, because the Elite end up fading into the graphic. So it's going to be the Elite versus the Death Triangle at Full Gear for the Trios Championship. So Pac ended up saying that we've been waiting for you. So there you go. There's your Trios Championship match for Full Gear. So the Elite are coming back after they've been suspended because of the whole altercation, you know, between them and CM Punk, you know, after the all-out media scrum. So the Elite are going to be returning, you know, the Bucks and Kenny Omega. But overall, it was a decent match for the Trios Championship with Top Flight, AR Fox, and the Death Triangle. Really glad Top Flight is back on TV, and glad to see Darius Martin back again. And then we saw Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks was talking about him being attacked by Lance Archer last week. And Starks ended up saying that he's challenging Lance Archer to a match on Rampage Friday. And so Ricky Starks ended up saying that they should start backstage and fight all over. So there you go. There's your match for Rampage on Friday. Lance Archer versus Ricky Starks. Should be a very good match there. And then we had Ethan Page versus Bandito. This was the World Championship Eliminator Tournament semifinal match. And pretty good match this was. Ethan Page ended up coming out. Stokely Hathaway was accompanying Ethan Page. Ethan Page ended up saying that at Winter is coming. It doesn't matter if it's Mox or Max. So he sent a sight on who will be the AEW World Champion after Full Gear, whether it's Moxley retaining the title or MJF becoming the new World Champion. And then Bandito came out. Bandito, he was wearing a sombrero, and his attire was in black and gold, which was awesome. You know, awesome looking attire for Bandito. Bandito just signed a full contract with AEW, so he's all elite full time, which is good because there was talks about WWE wanting to get Bandito, but Bandito, you know, doesn't want to travel. He wants to stay in Mexico. He probably doesn't want to move to Florida, because if he signed with WWE, he'd be going all over the place, which, in AEW, you go one place at a time every week. So glad that Bandito signed full-time with AEW. But Bandito, he is just awesome in the ring. Match started off with both Paige and Bandito locking up. Bandito fight out Paige, and he started taunting Paige. Paige ended up delivering a kick to Bandito. Bandito followed up with a head scissors to Ethan Page. Paige blocked a suplex attempt from Bandito, and Paige ended up going for his own suplex. Bandito ended up kneeing at Paige, and he ended up suplexing Paige. Bandito finally got the suplex on Paige. So Stokely Hathaway ended up distracting Bandito, and that led to Paige blindsiding Bandito. And as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Bandito was in control of the match. He ended up delivering a drop toe hold onto Paige in the corner. He drop kicked Paige off the ring apron. So Bandito went up to the top. He delivered a moonsault off the top onto Paige, which was great, which was awesome. Bandito has a very good moonsault off the top. Bandito then ended up hitting a massive tornillo inside the ring, which was great. Bandito ended up going for the cover, and Paige ended up kicking out. Bandito ended up trying to go for the 21 plex, but Paige ended up blocking it, and Paige ended up hitting the cutter to Bandito, and he ended up going for the cover. Bandito kicked out. Paige ended up sending Bandito up, and he was looking to go for the Ego's Edge. Bandito countered and ended up hitting a Hurricanrana to Paige. So Bandito ended up press slamming Paige. He went up to the top, hit the frog splash onto Paige. Bandito went for the cover, and Paige kicked out. Bandito went back up to the top. Paige ended up taking Bandito down. Bandito came down hard on his knee. So Paige went up to the top, and Bandito ended up blocking it. So Bandito then head up to the top. Paige countered with a body slam off the ropes, and Paige delivered a missile shoulder tackle to Bandito, and then Paige then ended up hitting the Ego's Edge to Bandito, and Paige ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Ethan Page ended up winning the match. So Ethan Page is moving on in the tournament. Overall, this was a decent match. And then we saw Renee Paquette. She was giving her insights on the whole Jungle Boy Luchasaurus rivalry. It was a promo packaging their history and rivalry, and how Jungle Boy ended up costing Luchasaurus the All-Atlantic Championship. So we saw that. And then after that, we saw an interview with Renee and Saraya. Renee ended up asking Saraya about how she feels about being cleared and how she's prepared. Saraya ended up telling Renee that she's excited and she never thought it would happen. So Saraya ended up saying that she's sick of the back and forth with Britt Baker and that she looks forward to Full Gear. Pretty much that was what Saraya had to say. And then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we saw Ortiz and Eddie Kingston. They were talking about their match against Jun Akiyama, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and Konosuke Takeshita. Takeshita ended up saying that we will show you DDT style, and that Eddie wanted this for decades. And the match is going to happen on Rampage on Friday, so we're going to be seeing Ortiz and Eddie Kingston taking on Jun Akiyama and Konosuke Takeshita. Once again, Takeshita back on AEW television. Very good. Takeshita is just absolutely great in the ring. Very good talent. And then we had Anna Jay versus Toni Storm. This was for the interim AEW Women's World Championship. Now, this was originally supposed to be Toni Storm versus the Bunny. But Tony Khan went on Twitter, on the social media, ended up saying that the Bunny was sick and she couldn't make it out to Dynamite. So they put Anna Jay in the Bunny's place. So we had the match. But this was just a very meh match, in my opinion. Did not care for it. And I gotta ask, why is the interim AEW Women's World Champion competing tonight when she has a match on Saturday? You know, Toni Storm, they should have had Toni Storm take the night off and just prepare for Saturday. But Anna Jay ended up making her way down and got a very mild reaction from the crowd. So Toni Storm ended up coming out, popped from the crowd for Toni Storm. So match ended up starting. Anna Jay ended up avoiding a takedown from Toni Storm, started taunting her. We had a shoulder tackle by Toni Storm to Anna Jay. And we had Toni Storm end up pinning a boot onto Anna Jay. And she followed up with a monkey flip in the corner. Anna Jay countered with a backbreaker in the corner to Toni Storm. And then Anna Jay followed up with a spin kick to Toni Storm's head. And then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we had both Toni Storm and Anna Jay. They were slugging it out. Toni Storm ended up hitting the death press on Anna Jay. Toni Storm ended up clubbing Anna Jay's back, and she followed through with a lariat and a fisherman suplex on Anna Jay. And Toni Storm ended up going for the cover. Jay ended up kicking out. So Anna Jay, she was scrambling to the ropes to stop the cloverleaf, and Toni Storm ended up hitting a hip attack, sending Anna Jay off the apron. At the end of the match, Anna Jay was sent up for the Queen Slayer. Toni Storm countered, ended up hitting a hip attack into the corner. She dragged Anna Jay into the ring and applied the cloverleaf, and Anna Jay ended up tapping out. So there you go. Toni Storm ended up winning the match, retaining the interim AEW Women's World Championship. Post-match, Jamie Hayter made her way down to the ring. Both Jamie and Toni Storm were drawn at each other because these two women know each other very well. Toni Storm ended up holding the championship up, and pretty much that was basically that. And then we had some good news surrounding AEW, because next year AEW will be debuting in the UK. And that is awesome news. You know, the UK is just great when it comes to pro wrestling. The crowds there are awesome. They are loud. I can imagine how the crowd there in UK is going to react to AEW being there for the first time. And that's coming up next year. So they end up announcing that on Rampage, it's going to be Lee Moriarty versus Hook for the FTW Championship. Obviously, Hook is going to retain it. And then it's going to be Athena versus Madison Rayne. So we're going to be seeing those two matches on Rampage on Friday. And then we had the MJF and Jon Moxley face-to-face, which closed out Dynamite tonight. Jon Moxley came out, and he was accompanied, of course, by William Regal. So Moxley ended up getting on the mic, and he thanked Justin Roberts for the intro. He ended up confirming that he is the champion. Moxley ended up saying that the man makes the champ. So who is Moxley? He ended up saying that he is the best pro wrestler, and he's taken on all corners, and he defined the AEW World Championship. Moxley ended up saying that, don't admire that I fight. I have a sick mind. He ended up saying being in wars and pain and violence, he loves it, and literally doesn't care about getting hurt. So Moxley was like, who is MJF? Moxley ended up saying that he found out MJF is a good singer, and he has 1 win in the ring in 6 months. He ended up saying that he took a vacation, like Pillman, and came back for the worst ending to a ladder match he's ever seen. And now he's challenging me. Moxley ended up saying that he isn't shaking in his boots, and that he sees MJF dripping with insecurity. A kid playing wrestler, and a kid afraid he won't live up to the hype. So Moxley ended up saying that you'll see something special, and that's him challenging MJF to show him the guts and balls, and why everyone thinks he's the future. So then, Stokely Hathaway came down the ramp. Lee Moriarty ended up trying to attack Moxley. Lee Moriarty ended up getting sent out of the ring by Moxley. And then we had the Firm end up attacking Moxley. They end up attacking Moxley and William Regal. And then MJF's music ended up hitting. MJF ended up coming out. He took out Austin and Colton Gunn. And he took out Lee Moriarty. He delivered a low blow to Morrissey. And then Paige ended up taking out Morrissey accidentally. Ethan Page. MJF then took out Ethan Page. He ended up saying, get out of Connecticut before I take my boot off and shove it up your ass. That's what MJF ended up saying. So, the Firm is just a bunch of jobbers. Who cares about the Firm? I said this before and I'll say this again. The only one that sticks out of that whole group is Morrissey. That's it. Not the Guns, not Lee Moriarty, and not Ethan Page. Morrissey sticks out of all of them. So now MJF turned his attention to Moxley. He ended up saying to Moxley, I don't want any excuses from you or your pissant fans when I knock you out. He ended up saying that there will be no AEW Diamond Ring. He ended up saying, isn't that right, Will? To which he said that to William Regal. MJF ended up saying that when I got in this business, I wanted to be the best. He ended up saying, I know I am in the fight for my life. But now I ain't the same kid as when we fought first. So MJF ended up saying that you can dump me on my head, make me bleed, pop my ligaments, but I won't stop because I need that belt more than I need food, water, or oxygen. He ended up saying that when you hold the title, it makes you the best, and it's my time. He ended up saying, I heard you when you said I wasn't the devil. He wanted to say that the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he doesn't exist. So MJF was like, you'll find out at Full Gear, because I am Maxwell Jacob Friedman. And so Moxley took the mic from MJF. He grabbed the mic from MJF. And so Moxley ended up saying, I never saw the appeal anyways. If you've got the heart, we'll see. Or I'll pull it out of you. He ended up saying that Full Gear, the training wheels are coming off. So Moxley ended up saying, oh, this Sunday. Moxley thought that the pay-per-view was on Sunday. Because he was like to MJF, oh, is it Saturday or Sunday? So Moxley botched there. Forgetting that the pay-per-view was on Saturday than Sunday. So both MJF and Mox end up staring each other down. And Moxley and Regal started taunting MJF. And pretty much that was how Dynamite went off the air tonight. Overall, I thought this was a very weak promo from MJF and Moxley. Like, something, in my opinion, was missing out of it. Like, I didn't get hyped. Like, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be an awesome, good match. Now I'm ready for this after this promo. I don't know. I just found it very weak. Like, something was missing out of it. Like, I'm like, oh, yeah, now I got to see this match now. But that was Dynamite tonight. Overall, this was an okay show, but as a go-home show, it didn't get us hyped going into the show for Saturday. But Full Gear is shaped up to be a good show with a good card. I mean, look at the card. Jon Moxley versus MJF. AEW World Championship on the line. The Acclaimed versus Swerve and Our Glory for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. And obviously, we're going to be seeing the breakup of Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. So that's going to be coming. We all know it is. So we're going to be seeing Ethan Page versus whoever in the World Championship Eliminator Tournament final, where the winner receives a World Championship match at Winter is Coming, whether it's against Moxley, if he retains, or MJF. And then we got Toni Storm versus Jamie Hayter for the interim AEW Women's World Championship. Chris Jericho versus Bryan Danielson versus Claudio Castagnoli versus Sammy Guevara. 4-way match for the Ring of Honor World Championship. The match that nobody cares for and NyQuil inducing, Jade Cargill versus Nyla Rose. TBS Championship. And then Dr. Britt Baker, DMD versus Soraya. Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal versus Sting and Darby Allin. Tag team match. Going to be pretty shocked if Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal win that match. Luchasaurus versus Jungle Boy in a steel cage, which that's going to be a awesome match. The Death Triangle versus the Elite, which was announced tonight with the Elite being the ones to face the Death Triangle. World Trios Championship on the line. And, of course, Wardlow versus Samoa Joe versus Powerhouse Hobbs, the 3-way match for the TNT Championship. So that's the card for Full Gear. Shape up to be a good show on Saturday. Anyways, that's it for the Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all on Friday for SmackDown and AEW Rampage. So see you then.